Now we're going to take a look at a more advanced Ajax application, and this is a live search application using Google Suggest. You've already seen how Google Suggest works. This application shows you how to connect to Google Suggest behind the scenes using Ajax and perform a live search. For example, if you type A here, then you get all the possibilities. These possibilities are recovered from Google Suggest, and AJ further narrows you down to these values. For example, there's Ajax. You click this hyperlink, you'll be taken to the Google page, as you see here, and there's the entries for Ajax. So as you see, it's a very nice little application. It uses Google Suggest behind the scenes, connecting to Google Suggest via Ajax. We're going to take a look at how that works now in the code. It starts off with a text field, and we're connecting the onKeyUp event attribute to a function named getSuggest, passing the event object to getSuggest. So when the user enters text into the text field and the key that they've just typed goes up, we're going to call the getSuggest method, getSuggest function in JavaScript, passing it the event object. Here's what the getSuggest function looks like in JavaScript. It's passed an event object for the keystroke that just occurred. And actually, I'm afraid this is where you find that JavaScript already diverges between browsers. In Netscape and Firefox, you are indeed passed a key event object. However, you're not passed a key event object in Internet Explorer. Instead, you have to use the window.event object. And so here we're going to use a little bit of JavaScript to fill the key event object. If it's not already filled, if it doesn't exist, this is the JavaScript tertiary operator, $:. If key event does exist, then you are going to just copy it over again into the key event variable, and if it does not exist, you're going to use instead window.event. So this part is for execution in Firefox and Netscape, and this part is if you're executing the page in Internet Explorer. Also, you can determine which HTML control caused the event with the keyEvent.target property. If keyEvent.target exists, then you're working with the Firefox or Netscape brand of browsers, and otherwise you need to get the keyEvent.source element if you're working with the Internet Explorer. So when you're done with this code, the keyEvent object holds the object that corresponds to the actual key event, and in other words, the KeyUp event in this case, and the input variable holds the object that produced the event, which in this case is going to be the text field displayed to the user. So we're going to check here to make sure that keyEvent.type equals KeyUp, just to make sure, to confirm that the user did indeed release the key, in which case we can start to search for matches to the partial search term they've already entered into the text field. And so we first check to see if there is data in the input field. This is the input field, now holds the text field object in the web page, and if there is text in it, then its value property will be non-null. And so you say if input.value means if there is text entered that the user has already entered as a partial search term, then we're going to call the function getData to use Ajax to connect to Google Suggest behind the scenes. We're going to do that using a PHP file, google.php. We're going to pass the information that the user has already entered as the parameter QU using the getHTTP method. We're going to connect to a PHP file, which will in turn connect to Google Suggest, and we're going to pass the partial search term the user has already entered using the parameter QU for query, short for query. Otherwise, if there is no text inside the input text element, then we're going to simply clear that element like this, as you see here. I'm going to say target div inner HTML. We're just going to put an empty div element inside it because if there is no text inside the text field, then what's probably happened is the user has deleted the text in the text field because there was a key up event that occurred, and so we want to clear the text field as you see here. Okay, so now we're calling the getData function with this URL, the google.php file, which we're going to see in a minute, with the setting the QU parameter to the partial search term that the user has entered. It's going to be QU for query. So what does the getData function look like? Here's the getData function, and it looks a lot like you're already familiar with. It's going to use an XML HTTP request object, and it's going to assign a callback function to that object's onReadyState change property, as you see here. And the unique part of this is it's going to get from the XML HTTP request object the response text sent back from Google, and it is going to evaluate, it's going to use the JavaScript eval method to evaluate that response text as JavaScript. That's the key here. Google Suggest will send back actual JavaScript to execute. That JavaScript is going to be in the form of a call to a function named sendRPCDone. We're going to see about this in the next segment coming up, the next movie coming up. But that is the key here, that the Google Suggest works by sending back JavaScript, which allows you to connect to Google Suggest and to handle its return value. And the eval method will actually evaluate the JavaScript that Google Suggest sends back. It will be in the form of a call to this sendRPCDone function, which we're going to take a look at in the next movie. But that's the important thing to realize when you're working with Google Suggest, is it's going to send back JavaScript in the form of a call to a function named sendRPCDone. So you have to have sendRPCDone, the sendRPCDone function, available in your JavaScript. Okay, so that's the idea. We're going to send the partial term to this google.php file, which we're going to see in a second, using the QU parameter set to the input value, in other words, the partial search term that the user has entered.